So, hi. So we have about 20 of our participants on. Chef McKenzie's still trying to get set up, but welcome to Holiday Cooking with Chef McKenzie, sponsored by the Dairy Council. So I would like to read about Chef McKenzie. McKenzie Mayer is a registered dietitian and a chef here in Las Vegas. Chef McKenzie works as a clinical dietitian, has her own culinary business, and also manages the UNLV food pantry. She's very active in the Nevada Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and she's currently the fundraising chair. She is teaching cooking classes, and that's something she very much enjoys, and she's done so for so many years in the Southern Nevada area. She would like to implement a way to encourage healthful eating among the members of these organizations while also promoting the benefits of dairy. So a perfect little segue into our Dairy Council. I just realized I didn't introduce myself. I am Maddie. I'm the president of the Nevada Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I'm the director of dietetics at a small local hospital, and I own Desert Dietitians here in Vegas and Henderson. So thank you. And our Dairy Council representative today is Jake Yarberry. I think he'd love for me to read like his entire bio from our Eat Right Nevada website, but I won't. So he is a nutrition manager for the Dairy Council. He's been a community dietitian in this area for a long time, and he is our regulatory specialist on the board. He's actually been a part of the board since 2016. So Jake is very active and we appreciate him. And Lori Egan is our administrator for the Nevada Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and she is a registered dietitian and certified personal trainer. She has also been with us for years, and she is absolutely invaluable to our organization. So now we'll just smile at each other for just a couple minutes until we feel a little bit more prepared. So this can be a little bit social. Who's all actually cooking tonight? As you can see, I'm in my kitchen. So I'll be actually preparing this. And Sarah is also here. She's also a part of our board. So we get to, ooh, here's a poll. Okay, so who's actually here cooking? Who's here to watch? And who's other? So if everyone could submit the poll on their screen. Sarah and I are cooking. We have all of our lady fingers. You can't find them at Smith's. Don't go to Smith's for my local Las Vegans.
My sister was having the hardest time finding lady fingers in Seattle. There must be a lady finger shortage.
There's a shortage of a lot of things, but lady fingers, it's the holidays. We have to have our tiramisu. That's a must. Ooh,
did you see those results, Maddie?
Oh, they popped for a second and then I got distracted. Do we have them again?
Yeah, well, I read them there.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so 14% of us are cooking. 86% of us are just here to watch. Okay. Winco had lady fingers. Oh man. Thank you, Carol. Now I know where to go. Is Winco more of like a northern states kind of? I hear we have it here, I guess, too.
Here's one more poll.
One more poll. So we also have our Arizona Dairy Council. They were invited to this as well. So let's see how many of our Arizonans, is that what it's called, Arizonans?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Oh, none of our Arizonans are here. That's all right. Go get the audio or the.
Hey, McKenzie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Perfectly, yes.
Terrific.
Yes.
All right, I'll be stepping in.
All right, thank you. We're excited.
All right, thank you, thank you. How's everyone doing this evening?
Awesome.
Perfect. Just one moment. Just want to make sure that we're all good here on the camera. All right, can everyone see okay?
So McKenzie, you might just want to move it a little bit to the left so you're centered, and I think you're good.
Terrific.
Beautiful.
All right, how is that?
Looks good. Let's get
All
cooking.
right. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the holiday cooking class hosted by the Dairy Council. My name is Chef McKenzie Mayer. I'm a registered dietitian, and I also love to cook, and I'm really excited to be here for the second year that we'll be hosting this cooking class, promoting not only dairy, but also fun holiday themed recipes that you can prepare easily at home. So for anybody who's cooking along tonight, thank you, or even just joining for fun. How many are cooking along with us?
So we did do a poll, and it's about 15% of the people. So about 3 people cooking
Awesome.
along.
Terrific, great. And the recipes are sent to all of you so you can prepare it at a later time. And of course, they're just as a guide, so feel free to modify it to your liking. And on the menu this evening, we will be preparing a soup, which is a smoky mushroom chowder, as well as a dessert, which is a pumpkin spice eggnog tiramisu. So we'll get started. And I also would just like to ask if everybody can hear me all right.
Audio's good.
All right, awesome. And if at any time anybody has a question about anything, feel free to shout it out. I've got you in my ear, so if you have any questions, and then also if you have any questions, you can type it into the chat box, and I'm happy to help with anything along the way. So let's get started. Terrific. So we will start by preparing the chowder first. So if you have a heavy bottom soup pot, large pot will work, and all the ingredients. So this is a vegetarian friendly recipe. So as you can see, they're full of all different types of veggies. We have garlic, mushrooms, potatoes, carrots, celery. If you have some onion at home, if you have that already pre-cut, they'll be ready to go into the soup pot. In addition to that, all else you will need is some olive oil, a little bit of butter, some spices. If you like it a little spicy, feel free to add any of your favorite hot sauces or cayenne pepper, a little bit of flour, and some heavy cream will be our dairy component for the soup. And then just some vegetable broth or chicken broth, whatever type of broth that you have on hand, and we will get started. So in order to begin, all you need to do is preheat your soup pot right over here. Preheat a large pot with some olive oil and some butter. Get that warm. So this is a good alternative if you're not a fan of seafood. If you don't want to prepare clam chowder, you can substitute it with mushrooms, which are really meaty and can be a great alternative to clams. So if you start by adding in a little bit of olive oil into your stock pot, I've also got a 1/4 cup of butter. So the olive oil is good to help with getting the veggies nice and cooked through. The butter will be helping with the browning and will help us form a roux, which will help us thicken our soup. So once the pot is warm, then we'll add our veggies. On the meeting tonight, I'm curious how many are attending from NvAND and how many are attending from who are students. Any SNDA members out there?
I know my friend Nadia is on, and she's a UNLV student currently. Hi, Nadia.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for being here. See a few SNDA members, terrific. All right. Now we can add in our butter. All right. And you can just put this right at a medium heat. Once the butter has melted, then we can go ahead and add in our vegetables. So any veggies that you have available, I'm gonna go grab mine. All right, so for the veggies, I've got some diced carrots, celery, potatoes. If you have onions, all of those harder veggies you'd like to add in first because they take a little bit longer to cook. Now that the butter is melting, add in all of your firm veggies and your root vegetables. It'll start smelling really good. All right. Celery going in. On the meeting tonight, is there anyone else who's a member of the Dairy Council? For anybody who is new, the Dairy Council is an organization here in Nevada, also Arizona and Utah, and we all are here to help promote the benefits of dairy and help give recipe ideas, help incorporate dairy into your meals and still make them enjoyable. And different types of dairy that you can incorporate include milk, yogurt, butter, heavy cream. And fun fact, milk does carry all of the 9 essential amino acids. And the dairy components that we will be using in this recipe are heavy cream. All right, so veggies are in. Nice potatoes. All right.
So Chef McKenzie, Sarah and I are actually cooking for our husbands right now, and we're doubling the recipe. Is there anything special we have to know?
No, if you are doubling the recipe, you can simply multiply all of the ingredients by 2, and that will give you plenty of soup for your hungry husbands. And if you have any leftover, it also thickens up a little bit in the fridge. So if you have any leftover, it'll last you the rest of the week. So this is a great make ahead meal. So if you were to double the recipe, you can have enough ready for the rest of the week and you only need to cook it once. So fantastic. Hopefully they're helping you. Are you just both cooking by yourselves or they're just watching?
They're watching football.
Of course, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, they deserve it.
That's so sweet. Thank you both for cooking tonight. All right, so let those veggies cook for a few minutes. As you can see, we've got a lot of different colors going on. You got everything diced pretty finely. It won't take long at all for them to soften. Those a few minutes. I was actually missing an onion in mine, but that's okay. All right. Veggies are in. Next, we'll add our mushrooms. So you can use any kind of mushroom that you like. Oyster mushrooms, portobellas, baby bellas, any type of mushroom works great. I do have some shiitake mushrooms that I'm going to be using already sliced. Mushrooms don't take as long to cook. So that is the last veggie that you need to add. How's it smelling over there, everyone? Smelling good, terrific. All right. So now I've got my mushrooms going in, just like that. I love this because everything just goes into one pot. The soup does not need to be blended, just needs to be stirred. Very, very easy. Keep everything sauteed over medium-high heat. All right. Got a moment for the mushrooms to soften. And if you have aromatics like fresh garlic, you can add that in as well. Boom. All right, let's talk spices. So this is a smoky chowder. I decided, well, it's the fall, it's getting cold. We can still keep it warm by adding some really nice warm spices. You can add chili powder, I've got some paprika here. Paprika is very mild. It's not spicy. It's not hot, but it'll add some nice color to the soup. I've also got smoked paprika. So the difference between paprika and smoked paprika, the smoked paprika has a very rich savory flavor. So without having to add any bacon or any type of meat, the smoked paprika will give it a nice smoky flavor. You don't need a lot. So only a 1/4 teaspoon or 1/2 teaspoon is plenty. And you can always add more. So start with a little bit. You can always increase. Smells really good. All right. I've also got some ground nutmeg. So you might be wondering, what is this even doing in the party? But the ground nutmeg is actually really fantastic to go with the potatoes and the cream of the soup. And it really helps bring out the flavor of the root vegetables. And you also don't need much at all. It is not to be a soup flavored full of nutmeg. It will just really help bring out the flavors of these yummy vegetables. All right. If you have a bay leaf, any soup, you only need 1 or 2. This adds a lot of warm flavor right into the pot. And we can grab that later. How's everyone doing? Great, great. Smells so yummy. All right, let's have a look. All right. Got our confetti colors going. So you might see some browning at the bottom of the pot. That's okay. That's what we want. That's gonna be all the flavor that's gonna be enhancing our soup. So now you can go ahead and add in some flour. 1/4 cup of flour is plenty. It's a 1-to-1 ratio with the 1/4 cup of butter that we started with, and this will help form a roux. So all you need to do is coat all of the vegetables with the flour, mix with the olive oil and the butter. It will turn into a beautiful golden color. Let that cook for a couple of minutes. So you can see once it's reached a nice golden color, then we'll add in our liquid. All right. So if you have white wine, you can also take a 1/4 cup of white wine and use that to deglaze the pot first. That will help lift everything off for the bottom of the pan, all of that delicious flavor. I won't be using white wine this evening, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into the next step, which is grabbing our vegetable broth. So your vegetable
Mackenzie,
broth, yes.
I do have a question for you. Could you
Question.
suggest an alternate to the flour for gluten-free?
Terrific, yes. So if you are gluten-free, you can substitute it with gluten-free all-purpose flour would be its closest alternative. And if you want, you could also substitute it with cornstarch. If you are sensitive to gluten, you can substitute it for that as well. And for cornstarch, all you would need to do is dilute it with a little bit of water and then add it into the pot. And that mixture will allow the soup to thicken. Great question. Another way to help the soup thicken up, if you don't have those ingredients, you could also take a cup of the soup after the liquid is included, and you can blend it and add that back in, and the thickness and starch from the potatoes and the other root vegetables will also help thicken the soup. Okay. Now we're moving down to medium heat. It's time to deglaze the pot. So I've got some vegetable stock here. And the amount of stock really just depends on how many servings you plan to have. If you want a thicker soup, you can use less stock. If you want it to be on the thinner side, you can always add more. I'm starting with a quart of vegetable stock. You can also use beef, chicken, whatever you like. Okay, I actually do have some chicken stock, so I'm just going to be using a quart and a half. All right, so we can always add some more later if we would like to increase the amount of soup. So I've got this pot about half full. Now all you need to do is raise the heat back to high heat because we want it to boil. So we want the soup to come to a boil that will allow it to thicken up. Just continually stir, scrape everything from the bottom. Who else loves soup in the wintertime? I do. I love soup even in the summertime. All right, so bring that up to a boil. And then once your soup is boiling, then you can turn the heat down to a medium-low heat and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. And then we will transition to our dessert. So you can start gathering all of your dessert ingredients. How's everybody's soup doing? Looking good, smelling good? I can smell all of yours from here. All right, so let that come to a boil. You don't have to cover it, so that way you keep an eye, and then once it's boiling, just turn it down to a medium-low heat, and then it will just stir it occasionally, and then it will continue to thicken up over the next 15-20 minutes. As for the heavy cream, we will add that at the very end, after the soup had been cooking for about 30 minutes. Any questions so far in regards to the chowder before we move on to the dessert? All right, great. If at any time you need anything, please do let me know. All right. So moving on to the dessert. Has anyone else ever made tiramisu before from scratch? Yes, a few people, great. Seen it done before, okay. Believe it or not, it's actually much easier than it looks. I almost consider it easier than making a cake because it doesn't require any baking. And depending on your preference, may or may not require a heat source, but I will be using a double boiler just for the very first step, but it's not necessary and I will explain. So gather all of your ingredients for the tiramisu. So I decided to make this eggnog flavor since now we're into the holiday season, and the cream layers would be great if they resemble the really nice cinnamon spice flavor that you get when you drink cold eggnog, and super easy to make. And also the first step of making this tiramisu is the same first step that you would do if you were to make homemade eggnog from scratch. So all that you'd need if you're choosing to do the double boiler method, this is just simply combining the egg yolks, which I have already cracked, 6 egg yolks into a bowl that's heat proof that will be set right over your double boiler, or simply if you just have a pot and fill it just to a short level of water, set the pot right over and set it to a simmer. So we don't want this water to be boiling. We just want it to be warm enough to simmer. So if you bring it just to a low medium heat, that would be perfect. And then once simmering, we will add our sugar. So this cooked method essentially is just making the egg yolk mixture more rich and almost custard-like, and I think makes for a really tasty eggnog if you were to make it from scratch. and this will help flavor our tiramisu. However, if you don't want to do all the cooking, you can actually safely consume the egg yolk mixed with the sugar by itself. As long as it's well whipped until a light pale color, then that will be able to be used to mix with the next ingredient. So you will not have to cook it, but I think it just develops a richer flavor and is much tastier if you have the ability to cook it. All right, so letting this simmer away, just give it just another moment. For this recipe, it's also optional for you to booze it up. So if you have bourbon, whiskey, rum, you can also add them in small amounts. And this is also really great to flavor your eggnog, also your tiramisu. So I will be incorporating some with the espresso. So I already have a baking dish, or as long as you have a bowl filled with some already brewed espresso. It doesn't have to be hot. In fact, it can just be at room temperature. So I've got some ready for dipping the lady fingers later. And to the espresso is where I have already added a little bit of my mini bourbon here. And that mixture will be soaked with the lady fingers later. I think we have reached a simmer here. So once your double boiler water is simmering, go ahead and add in your sugar. So I've got half a cup of sugar to 6 egg yolks. And all you need to do is whisk it over the simmering water, and this will just allow the sugar to dissolve. Again, you don't have to do this method. If you don't wish to, you can simply just whisk the egg yolks, or if you have an electric mixer and you're not choosing to warm it over the double boiler, it will help the sugar dissolve quickly. And this will only just take about 5 minutes. Whisk it till the sugar dissolves, so it doesn't look grainy, looks nice and smooth. Right. So let that sit for just a moment. We'll just take 1 second to go back to our soup. It is actually boiling now. So give it a stir occasionally. Make sure everything is well combined. And once boiling, you can just turn it down to a medium-low heat. I will actually go ahead and add in the rest of my chicken stock. Okay, perfect. And let that simmer away, and we'll come back to the soup in a little bit. Okay, so dessert time. This is great because this dessert doesn't require any baking at all. It only requires patience. I have a really hard time doing it. I don't know. But this is a really great make ahead dessert. If you are, especially if you're making it for a party, Thanksgiving is coming up. This is something you can make in advance, and it's easy to prepare for a crowd. And it's ready in as little as about 4 hours if you want to consume it quickly after preparing it. Otherwise, it will continue to firm up, and you can prepare it in at least a day in advance, and it will be perfect for your party. All right, so the egg yolks and sugar have blended very smoothly. Now it's turned a light pale color. We don't want the egg yolks to be cooked into scrambled eggs. That's why we have it just at a very low simmer. And then we can turn the heat off. And then we're going to let it cool for about just a few minutes. We'll set that aside. While that cools, we can get our mascarpone cheese ready. All right. Did anybody have a hard time finding this cheese? It's readily available at most grocery stores now. You can find it in the deli aisle, you know, where everyone's making charcuterie boards. That's where you'll find it. So mascarpone cheese is simply just a soft cheese. It is very neutral in flavor. You could use it to substitute a recipe for any recipe that calls for cream cheese. It's usually a great substitute because it has a very neutral, mild flavor, just very, very subtly sweet. It actually is really great to use in both savory or sweet applications. For our dessert, this will be used to be made sweet. And I actually did find, when I went to the store the other day, I found a mascarpone that's already flavored with espresso. So I thought that was really cool. But I didn't use it for this recipe because I want most of this to taste more like eggnog. But the other espresso flavor one is very delicious. And the reason that I had you all set this out at room temperature was to allow it to become nice and soft. So it'll be easy for us to whip up into our cream. So from your fridge, if you have a bowl already set to go that's been chilled with some heavy cream, this will help it whip up quickly into a nice whipped cream. So let the egg yolks cool for a couple more minutes, and the mascarpone cheese, you can start getting that ready. Now that the egg yolks have cooled, we will combine it with our mascarpone cheese. It doesn't taste like it, but mascarpone cheese is actually really rich. It has a higher fat content, but that's why it does make it so delicious and perfect for this cream layer. All right, and if you are preparing this for a smaller batch, you can get away with just one container, 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese. I am preparing it to the full size that the recipe calls for. All right, great. Any questions so far? Everyone doing okay? All right. So now you can go ahead and mix your mascarpone cheese with the egg yolk mixture, just until it's smooth and well combined. Another great addition, if you didn't want your tiramisu to be flavored necessarily with cinnamon or pumpkin spice, you can actually add in some orange zest or lemon zest. It would give it some delicious bright flavor. Even if you have some fruit jam, you can also incorporate it into this mixture as well, and it would give the tiramisu a really, really nice flavor. All right. This is almost nice and smooth. What's everybody's favorite cheese?
Cheddar cheese.
Cheddar cheese, aw. Love it. What other kinds of cheese are out there we can enjoy? Come on now, what's on your cheese board? Goat cheese. Yum.
Parmesan.
Parm, yes. Love Parmesan. Terrific. I love personally any creamy cheese. All right. It's whipped up nice and smooth. Blue cheese. Oh, you're really brave if you love blue cheese. Terrific. Well, to all the cheese lovers, keep eating cheese. It's a great source of dairy. And if you know anybody who's lactose intolerant or sensitive to dairy, most can tolerate small amounts of cheese and can still enjoy it. All right, perfect. So now we will go ahead and make our whipped cream. This is going to turn our nice cream layer light and fluffy and help stretch out our pastry cream that we are forming with our cheese mixture. So I'm going to get my electric mixer hooked up, and while I get the heavy cream mixed, soup's boiling away, thickening up. Don't forget to stir your soup. And for the heavy cream, all you need to do is whip it on the electric mixer for about 5-6 minutes until it has thickened up, and you will get stiff peaks when you turn your mixer upside down. So in about 5 minutes, I'll come back to you all, and I'd like to introduce you to Jake Yarberry, who is a dietitian for the Dairy Council, and he will share with you more about this amazing organization.
Okay, hi guys. I'm sure most of you guys know me. I'm going to just show you what our website looks like. We've got lots of resources for health professionals, for school teachers, and then also some kind of myth busters on our dairy site too. So I'll start sharing that. Okay, so I'll go to the resources first. We've got a resource catalog where if you want to order anything for your clients, you can totally order it for free. It's just under resources. Like I said, if you work with school age children, we've got coloring books. We've got books for resources for elementary, middle school, high school. And then our different programs are just listed on our website too. So we've got Fuel Up to Play 60, which is our main program. It's our partnership with the Raiders. So Fuel Up is the Dairy Council, Fuel Up is the nutrition, and then Play 60 is that 60 minutes of activity. So we can come to any school. We do Raiders junior training camps. A lot of in-person things are going on right now. And then Farm to Table. The video isn't showing up here, but you can see it on YouTube. It kind of just talks about the whole supply chain, just a little bit of a cartoon. So everybody knows about the supply chain now. Of course, that's a huge issue with dairy because we go from the farm to the processor to the store. Each part of that, truck drivers, there can be issues with the supply chain. Animal care is on here. And then if you didn't know, we've got different sustainability goals. Farming has always had sustainability goals. Just to be financially successful, you have to have sustainability goals. So we use 30% less water, 20% less land, 20% less manure, and have a 19% smaller carbon footprint than we did in 2007. And we have the goal of becoming carbon neutral or better. But you guys can check all this out yourselves. Oh, here's a great one, Legendary Cooking. So McKenzie's last show was actually on here. If you guys know any restaurants in Vegas that you want highlighted, please reach out to me. We try to highlight a local restaurant each month, just to help support the community and then also highlight dairy. If you have any questions for me, just let me know. And I think that McKenzie, are you good, McKenzie? Okay, well, thank you guys.
Thanks so much, Jake. It's been really a great opportunity to work with the Dairy Council for the past few years, even during my undergrad when I was still in college. And the Dairy Council is really great because they do host so many events at local schools, as well as other health and fitness facilities, including dairy, and from the city through their Fuel Up to Play 60 program. All right, how's everyone's whipped cream doing? Great, great, great. So once you have your whipped cream ready to go, we can now gently fold that into our mascarpone cheese mixture. And this will become the cream layer for our tiramisu. And then we will begin our layering process, which is the fun part. All right. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great.
Awesome. Terrific. All right. Getting hungry. I hope you all are. So to the mascarpone mixture that's nice and smooth, you can go ahead and add our heavy cream. And also don't forget to add some pumpkin spice. This is what's going to allow it to taste just like eggnog. Even if you just have some cinnamon, some nutmeg or clove, tastes nice and delicious. And if you want, this could also make a really, really great pudding. If you didn't have the heavy cream and you just have the mascarpone cheese mixture, this makes a really delicious pudding. Crumble something on top. All right, so to it, our heavy cream. We'll just add in a little bit at a time. It's pretty delicate. So all we need to do is to gently fold it. I recommend using a spatula for this method and just fold it in gently, just to keep it nice and light and airy. And for the tiramisu, you can serve it in little glasses if you'd like to do individual portions and layer it in there. If you have a trifle bowl, which is a large, deep, see-through bowl with a stand and allows you to see the nice, beautiful layers. Or if you just simply have a baking dish, that works out also great. To it, we'll add some more of the heavy cream. We got dessert going, got dinner going all at the same time. Just in under an hour. It's looking delicious. I cannot wait to taste it. Make sure it's nice and evenly incorporated. Let's check out some of our other ingredients that we have going on here too. So we've got some of our espresso ready, our lady fingers. You might find these in a couple different types. Some are firmer than others, but generally they are pretty soft. Also pretty mild flavored, so they can take on whatever you expose them to. They absorb the liquid very, very quickly. And if you have trouble finding them, you could find some at Albertsons. Some Smith's does carry also ladyfingers and NvANDs as well. You could either find it in the baking aisle, or you could also find it in the same area where you'd find all of the deli near the bakery. They also may be carrying them there. All right, so the last bit of our heavy cream is going in. And we will begin our assembly. I swapped what would traditionally call for cocoa powder for the pumpkin spice. So you might find more espresso or chocolate flavor in your tiramisu, which is very, very delicious. But to complement this beautiful custard cream and make it resemble eggnog, I swapped it for the pumpkin spice. But feel free to use whatever flavoring that you'd like. All right, now it's looking nice and light. And once it's pretty evenly incorporated, we can go ahead and begin our assembly. All right, how's everybody doing? Any questions so far before we begin? All good? All right, terrific. So I've got a 9x13 baking dish. And again, you can use any type of vessel that you'd like. If you prepare it in something smaller or like this size, you can generate more layers and that can give you a thicker tiramisu. You can prepare it in small glasses if you like to split it up, and that way it can individually be served. This way, you can either choose to line it with plastic if you choose to lift it out and slice it later, or you can also just go straight into the pan. You don't need to grease it or anything. We're not baking this. You can go start by layering the dish, and when it's set up and firm, all you need to do is slice it to separate each individual portion. So we'll get started. I'm gonna get some gloves. Not necessary, but touching the lady fingers and the cream layer, it does get a little bit messy. So I've got some gloves ready. All right, let's go. So the first layer of your tiramisu, you can begin with the lady fingers dipped in espresso. So I will warn you, the lady fingers are very delicate, so they just really need a very quick dip into the espresso. Just coat them on both sides, lift them out quickly. Don't let them soak for more than a second, so that way they don't fall apart on you. Another way that you could do it if you'd like is, if you want to, you could lay the lady fingers down first with the inside facing up. That way you've got the holes, and you can always spoon on the espresso mixture that way. So that way you know the lady fingers will still stay right in place. So it's entirely up to you. I'll show both methods. So to begin, I'll layer the first with lady fingers. I'll start this one by pouring it over, so that way the first layer is nice and set. The lady fingers that I bought come just like this. I am just separating them into their half layer, like so. But if you want, you can go ahead and use the full lady finger if you'd like it to be thick, because this layer does get really soft and absorbs all of the espresso. Okay. Make sure your very bottom layer is pretty covered. It's okay if you squish them, just so it covers all of the holes, so that way it serves as a nice base for when you go to lift your slices out of the pan later on. All right. Just gonna cover these little openings here. Another substitute, if you cannot find lady fingers, you could use a very soft sponge cake. All right. Fun fact, lady fingers, they're also a European derived ingredient. And tiramisu is also originated in Italy. All right, here we go, perfect. So I will just use the pour over method just to be very gentle. Just enough to gently soak the lady fingers. Otherwise, you can start by dipping them. And to this layer, we will top it with our beautiful pastry cream, and then we will repeat with another layer of ladyfingers and pastry cream just until we run out. So it's up to you how thin or thick you would like your tiramisu. Okay, so everything is coated pretty well. Just give it a squish. So everything is pretty even on the first layer. All right. Smelling good. How's everyone doing? Great. All right. So now we'll go ahead and add in our pastry cream layer. And this doesn't have to be a thick layer at all since we're going to be doing at least 2. So gently spread it evenly just to cover the first layer of ladyfingers. Don't forget to add your pumpkin spice if you haven't already. Smells like an eggnog latte over here. Beautiful. And this part is where you can really get creative. If you'd like to add anything in between, like really fine shavings of chocolate, if you want to add zest of a citrus, you can do that as well. Drizzle some sauce or jam. Ooh, ground up coffee beans, bananas. Be delicious with your layers, so you can really customize it to whatever flavor you'd like. I'm curious, does anyone else think eggnog tastes like bananas? I always thought that it did. So I feel like bananas would be really delicious if layered in this dessert. It tastes like banana pudding, but mixed with coffee. Banoffee. All right. So the first layer is nice and smooth. Should only be about a centimeter or so thick, entirely up to you. Make sure all of the cracks are covered, and then we'll go ahead and repeat with the next layer of ladyfingers. Don't forget to stir your soup, by the way. Keep an eye on your soup. How's everybody's looking? I chose a clear dish so you can see where we're at. All right. So we'll repeat with our next layer. Smells so good, especially with the coffee and the bourbon. Just gonna give the soup a stir. It should be thickening up. Also, don't forget to add any fresh herbs. If you're using dry, you can add them earlier with your spices. If you're using any fresh herbs, it is good to add them towards the end. And adding fresh herbs at the end will be best to preserve their flavor so they don't get lost in the soup if added too early. I've got some fresh rosemary, fresh thyme, also some fresh parsley. Any herbs that you'd like would be great. All right. That simmer away. And let's continue to build our layers of tiramisu. Any questions so far? All right, so this time I'm going to start by dipping them. So that way you can see this method. The more the merrier. If your ladyfingers are still conjoined, if you can get a larger amount all at once, give it a very, very quick dip, drain off the excess espresso, and then layer it right into your tiramisu. Move very quickly so they don't get too absorbed and they can still be intact. Beautiful. If you don't have espresso, you can also just use freshly brewed instant coffee or whatever kind of coffee you like. Any type of liquid would be great. I've also seen this espresso tiramisu with the ladyfingers actually soaked in already made eggnog, which can be nice as well, but you would just have to thin it out with a little bit of milk so the ladyfingers can actually get properly soaked. All right, looking good. I think we can get second layer completed here. Perfect. And then we can go ahead and add in our next layer of pastry cream. I seriously could just eat this right out of the bowl. Looks so good. All right. We are almost finished here. Hopefully this can make for a great holiday dessert for you and your family. Or just for you, no judgment. If you want to eat the whole thing, you have my permission. All right. Finishing up our second layer here. Technically, you could eat this right away if you don't mind it being on the softer side. It's really delicious. But if you want to cut a nice slice, just let it chill in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours or overnight. Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to stop here. It's getting pretty heavy. Another thing you can do too is if you want it to be a thicker, higher cake, and all you have is a 9x13 baking dish, you can just fill it halfway and simply use the rest of the ingredients to build upon that one half of the dish to make it thicker. All right, now we're perfect. All we need to do is finish it with a final sprinkle of some pumpkin spice. Right over the top. And this is ready to chill in the fridge. All you need to do is cover it up with some plastic wrap. Let it chill for at least 4 hours or overnight. And it will be ready to be sliced and enjoyed. And I've already got one ready to go. So once it's firmed up, pop it out of the fridge, slice it. It's up to you how little or how much that you'd like, but the dessert is not extremely heavy, so you can be more generous with the portions. So right over here, we've got some already ready to go. I hope that you enjoy it. And let's check back on our soup. Your soup should be thickening up. Smells really, really good. If you have fresh herbs, don't forget to add them. And now we are going to add our heavy cream. You can add as little or as much as you'd like, just enough so that way it can also help thicken up the soup. Keep it at a low heat. We don't want to boil the cream. I have a cup of heavy cream that I'm adding to this soup. And that's what will make it really nice and light like a chowder. Just let the heavy cream simmer for at least 5 minutes. The soup will continue to thicken. You can serve it with a crostini. You can put some breadcrumbs on top. If you do like bacon, some crispy bacon on top would be delicious. And don't forget to taste it. That's the most important part. Because you can always add more of anything that you love until the soup is just to your liking. All right, let that go for about 5 more minutes. Any questions so far? Everyone doing okay? Smelling really good. And I have a bowl ready here. So when the soup is done, we will plate it. And the soup does continue to thicken if you do want to make it in advance and save some for the rest of the week. It does thicken up more once it is chilled. All right, so let that go for 5 minutes. How's everyone's soup looking? Anybody want to share? Or your dessert? Love to see everybody's.
You wanna see me
Here's
and
a
Sarah?
tiramisu. Yeah, I would love to.
We haven't put the sprinklies on top yet, but this is the one that Sarah and Aaron get to take home. This is the
Beautiful.
one that I'm gonna wake up at midnight to eat.
That would be me.
This is Sarah and her soup. It looks very mushroomy.
Hey, Sarah.
Hello. Here's our
You
soup.
guys are doing great. Looks
It's her birthday
delicious.
tomorrow. She says I'm not allowed to wake up at midnight for soup.
I'm gonna have cake for breakfast.
She wants it for breakfast. It's her birthday, so
yeah,
she gets it for
absolutely.
breakfast.
Need it for breakfast. Happy early
Woo!
birthday.
Thank you.
Tiramisu cake for breakfast. I wouldn't complain. Anybody else? Feel free to share any pictures with the Dairy Council or the Nevada Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, or if you have my email or the email that you sign up with for this event, feel free to share any photos, add any hashtags, Nevada Milk, holiday cooking class. So I would love to see everybody's beautiful creation at home.
I finally used the trifle dish. There we go.
Yay! Oh, who is this?
Got it. Finally. It's not holding Christmas decorations.
Oh, beautiful.
That is a beautiful.
That is a trifle dish.
I filled the whole thing. So it's the first one I've ever made. So there we go. Yay.
Amazing job. Amazing job. A trifle dish is very versatile. You can use it for non-food things, but I'm glad you're able to eat out of it.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. All right, this is so much fun. Anybody else have any questions, comments? And if you'd like, you can also, at this point, separate a cup of the soup if you want to make it even thicker, blend it up and add it right back in. And that can also make it nice and thick. Or you can puree the entire soup if you'd like. If you have an immersion blender or food processor at home. But absolutely not necessary. Last thing I'd like to point out too is if you have any bay leaves, you can fish those out. Any herbs in their stems, they just dissolve right off of it, which is really great and goes right into the soup. There we go, just like that. Super easy. Anything that can be made in less time is my kind of recipe. If it calls for a million ingredients, forget it. If it can be made with fewer ingredients and tastes just as delicious, that is what I go for. And I hope you had just as fun watching or cooking along with me.
McKenzie, we had someone ask, can the soup be frozen?
Yes, if you do make this in advance, let the soup cool at room temperature. Once it's cooled at room temperature, you can transfer it to anything that's a freezer safe container, meal prep containers, or even in Ziploc bags that are freezer safe, and they can be frozen and enjoyed even after a few months. So all you need to do once you're ready to reheat it is take out the frozen mold, place it into another pot, and over low heat, just let it dissolve and stir, and you'll have your soup ready to go. Great question. Any others?
Nothing
All
else
right,
is
now that-
coming in.
Everyone must be enjoying their food. I'm ready to dive in. So let's go ahead and serve this. Got my bowl ready. I hope everyone's house is smelling delicious. All right. The delicious mushrooms and veggies. Just like that. Feel free to top it with more spices to garnish. Got a little more smoked paprika on top. You have hot sauce, you can stir that right in if you want it to be a little spicier. More fresh herbs. And enjoy, look at that. A nice warm smoky mushroom chowder and our delicious tiramisu.
I feel like we need really dramatic music because this is beautiful.
Dun, dun, dun.
Nice job.
Suppose this would be a great time for tasting. Starving. All right, so let's try the soup. Smells nice and smoky, almost smells like bacon. You could almost fool somebody. If you have some bread, you can toast it, make a nice crostini, dip it into your soup. Anything crunchy to go right on top would be perfect to pair with it. Yum.
Someone asked, how did you make the swirls on the cut tiramisu?
Oh, good idea. So with your spatula, and actually demonstrate right now. That one definitely was fancier. So nothing is perfect, but this is where you can get creative. So after you've sprinkled on some of your pumpkin spice, before you put your tiramisu back into the fridge, I'm glad you noticed that detail. So you can take your spatula and just make nice little gentle ridges. And when it chills and firms up, you can top it with some more pumpkin spice. So you're really just drawing little waves, any direction, just to give it some texture. You can crisscross it if you like. You could even take a fork and make nice fine lines. And then let that chill. And then when it comes out of the fridge, just be gentle and do it not too deep so it won't dig into the lady fingers layer. And then once it comes out of the fridge, you can sprinkle it with some more cinnamon pumpkin spice and it will look just perfect. Any other questions?
We have no more questions coming in.
All right. Hopefully everyone is enjoying their meal at home. Thank you so much for cooking along with me. This has been really, really fun. I hope that you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and I hope to see you in our next holiday cooking class.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. I think I'm supposed to like officially wrap it up. So we're about to eat. So we're super excited. This was really fun. We were lagging behind, but we definitely caught up. I don't know how we had like 3 people doing things and Chef Mackenzie could do all of it by herself. So very impressed. And tonight was very fun. Thank you so much. If anyone has anything more to say, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. That was, I think we're good
Bye
now.
guys, good night.
Thank you.
So poor
Have a great
Mackenzie, do you have to
evening,
clean up by yourself? I feel so bad. Mackenzie's
No,
cleaning up
no.
alone?
I do
Oh,
have a few helpers behind the scenes, so
Oh, good.
just the cooking
Okay.
part, I don't mind, but thankfully I do have help. And I have help
Okay.
eating the food, so that's good
All
too.
right.
Thanks,
If
Dr.
If
K.
I wasn't 45 minutes away, I'd come help you clean up.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'll make sure to save you some.
Oh, thanks. No worries.
Bye guys, good night.
Have a great evening, everybody.